Friends, if you're someone who loves emotional, heartwarming, and inspiring movies, then you're in for a real treat. Because today, we're going to talk about a beautiful film that has touched countless hearts, A Mile in His Shoes, released in 2011. This isn't just a movie. It's a journey filled with hope, kindness, struggle, and triumph. If you enjoy stories that make you feel something real and leave you with a powerful message, then this is the movie for you. And hey, if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe right now. On this channel, we bring you everything you need to know about movies, reviews, updates, facts, behind-the-scenes stories, and much more. So stay with us till the very end because today's video is packed with exciting and emotional content that you definitely don't want to miss. Today, we are diving deep into A Mile in His Shoes, a film that isn't just about baseball. It's about believing in people, giving chances, and seeing the good where others see problems. This movie is based on a true story, and it's the kind of story that leaves you thinking about it long after the credits roll. I'll be telling you what this movie is all about, its storyline, its characters, and what makes it so special. I'll also be giving you a quick but heartfelt review, so if you haven't watched it yet, you'll get a good idea of what to expect, without any major spoilers of course. But wait, that's not all. We'll also talk about where you can watch this film, on which OTT platform it's currently available, or if it's airing on any satellite TV channels. So if you're wondering how to stream it legally and comfortably at home, I've got all the details ready for you. Whether you're planning to watch it alone or with family, this movie is perfect for both. Now let's talk about the team behind the film. In this video, we'll go behind the scenes and discuss the technical aspects of the film, like the direction, the cinematography, the editing, and the music. The way this movie has been crafted plays a big role in how emotionally effective it is. From the lighting of the scenes to the tone of the soundtrack, every detail contributes to the atmosphere. I'll tell you who directed it, who wrote the screenplay, how the story was adapted, and how the film's atmosphere was built from the ground up. And of course, we'll cover the production journey as well. How was the movie made? Where was it filmed? What challenges did the team face during shooting? How long was the pre-production process? And what was done in post-production to bring the final version to life? We'll also talk about the budget of the movie, how much was spent on making it, and how it performed in terms of viewership and critical reception. While this isn't a big blockbuster action film, its success is measured by the impact it had on viewers, and believe me, it left a big mark on many hearts. Now let's get to the cast. In this video, we'll explore the actors and their performances. Who played which character? How well did they bring those roles to life? I'll introduce you to the lead actors, talk about their previous work, and how they stepped into the shoes of their characters in this emotional drama. The performances are a huge reason why this film resonates with people. The chemistry between the characters, the way emotions are portrayed, every moment feels genuine and heartfelt. But that's still not everything. We'll also go through some fun and fascinating facts about this film. Did you know this movie is inspired by real events? I'll tell you what parts are based on true stories and what creative liberties the filmmakers took. We'll also look at the original source material and how the story was adapted for the screen. These behind-the-scenes facts really give you a new perspective and appreciation for the film. So friends, I truly request you to stay with me to the end of this video, because whether you've already seen A Mile in His Shoes or you're hearing about it for the first time, you're going to learn something new and interesting. From heart-touching moments to powerful performances, this film is a reminder that sometimes, all someone needs is a chance to shine. By the end of this video, you'll know everything there is to know about the movie, and I'm pretty sure you'll be adding it to your watch list if it's not there already. Alright then, let's not wait any longer. Let's begin the video and step into the emotional, inspiring, and unforgettable world of A Mile in His Shoes. Absolutely! Here's a much more detailed and expanded version of the plot and narrative section for A Mile in His Shoes, designed to keep your audience fully engaged with vivid storytelling, emotional depth, and an entertaining tone, without falling into a dry or overly academic review style. Alright friends, buckle up, because the story of A Mile in His Shoes isn't just a plot. It's a full emotional experience that sneaks up on you with its quiet charm and ends up wrapping itself around your heart. It's like walking into a small-town diner expecting a simple meal and walking out feeling like your whole soul got fed. Let's dive deep into this narrative, scene by scene, beat by beat. The film starts off in the dusty, worn-out world of minor league baseball. The kind of world where the dreams are real, but the stands are mostly empty. We're introduced to Arthur "Murph" Murphy, manager of the River Rats, A team that's about as down on its luck as a baseball team can get without playing with broken bats. Murph is old school. A man who still believes that baseball is more than just a game. He sees it as a way of life, a second chance, a platform where misfits can become heroes. But he's also under pressure. The team needs a miracle. Or at the very least, a decent pitcher. Cue the unexpected. Murph's car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. Seriously, it might as well have been in a field of corn and lost dreams. He ends up at a small pig farm, looking for help, and there he meets a quiet, awkward young man named Mickey Tussler. Now Mickey's not the type to talk your ear off. He barely speaks. He doesn't make eye contact. He keeps to himself, tending to his pigs like they're his best friends. Which honestly they kind of are. But here comes the spark. Murph witnesses something jaw-dropping. Mickey picks up an apple and throws it with such raw speed and pinpoint accuracy that Murph's jaw almost hits the dirt. And it's not a fluke. This kid has a natural gift. A cannon for an arm and the kind of control pitchers train years to develop. This moment is the first major turning point. Murph, being the intuitive soul that he is, immediately sees the potential. But this isn't just about baseball. It's clear from the start that Mickey is different. We learn that he has Asperger's syndrome, a condition that affects how he processes information, interacts socially, and experiences the world. This sets the tone for the rest of the film, not as a sports story, but as a deeply human one. Murph convinces Mickey's cautious and protective parents to let him try out for the team. It's a big risk. Mickey's never been away from home, never dealt with loud crowds, never been part of a team. But sometimes you just have to take the leap. Now we enter the heart of the narrative. Mickey joins the River Rats, and if you think it's all high fives and easy wins from here, think again. The locker room isn't exactly welcoming. Some players are confused. Others are straight up hostile. One player in particular, a classic antagonist type, immediately sees Mickey as a threat to his place on the team and starts making life difficult for him. There's mocking. There's jealousy. There's even sabotage. And all the while, Mickey is doing his best to adapt. Every loud cheer, every unpredictable moment, every sudden change is a mountain for him to climb. But he tries. And with Murph's steady guidance and a few teammates who start to understand him, Mickey begins to find his rhythm. The movie hits its stride here, balancing the baseball action with Mickey's personal growth. And honestly, these aren't just scenes of someone learning to play sports. They're scenes of someone stepping into a world that's never really made space for him. Watching Mickey navigate the chaos of the dugout, the sensory overload of crowds, and the challenge of social interaction is where the emotional weight really lands. There's a raw honesty in the way the film portrays Mickey's struggles. Not for pity, but for understanding. And the best part? Mickey isn't painted as a victim. He's a fighter. Quiet. Yes. But powerful. One of the most memorable scenes, and I won't give away every detail, is when Mickey faces public failure. It's one of those moments where everything seems to fall apart. He loses control. The crowd turns on him. The pressure becomes too much. And for a second, it feels like everything is going to unravel. But here's where the movie surprises you again. Instead of staying in that place of defeat, the story rebuilds itself. Murph doesn't give up. The team begins to change. Slowly, Mickey earns their respect, not just because he can pitch like a pro, but because they start to see him. Really see him. Not as a condition. Not as a label. But as a teammate. A friend. A warrior in his own right. As we head toward the final act, the emotional stakes go up. Mickey is given a chance to pitch in a big game. A defining game. Everything is riding on this moment. Not just the team's chances, but Mickey's entire journey of self-worth and belonging. The tension here isn't just about whether he'll strike out the last batter. It's about whether he can stand tall, face his fears, and trust that he belongs. And the film doesn't go for the big Hollywood-style over-the-top climax. Instead, it leans into subtlety, emotion, and truth. The result? A finale that feels earned. A quiet victory that hits deeper than any fireworks ever could. The structure of A Mile in His Shoes is straightforward, but that's its strength. It doesn't try to mess with time or jump between perspectives. It just tells a linear story with real heart. And in doing that, it delivers something rare. A story that feels both classic and fresh. The emotional journey is layered with moments of frustration, discovery, joy, and deep empathy. It's a story of second chances, not just for Mickey, but for everyone around him. Because sometimes, watching someone else find their way reminds us that we can too. So if you thought this was just a sports movie, think again. A Mile in His Shoes is about courage. It's about belief. And it's about walking in someone else's shoes. One pitch, one step, 1 mile at a time. Let's really crack this open and go all in, because the characters in A Mile in His Shoes don't just carry the story, they are the story. This film is all about people. How they change, how they struggle, how they fail, and how they grow when they open their hearts to the unexpected. So let's not just glance at these characters, we're going to live with them for a bit, breathe their air, feel their fears, and celebrate their transformations. If you thought this was just another sports drama with a few heartfelt moments, think again. Every single character brings something to the table, and together, they create a slow-burning, emotionally satisfying journey that hits you harder than a fastball to the chest. Let's go back to our central character, Mickey Tussler. From the very first scene, Mickey's different, and not in a showy, dramatic way. He's not trying to be the center of attention. He's just trying to make it through the day without being overwhelmed. He's awkward in social situations. He talks to pigs more easily than to people. He gets overwhelmed by noise, routine changes, and unpredictability. But the beauty is in the detail. We see how hard he works to manage those moments. Mickey isn't weak. He's incredibly strong. It's just that his battles are invisible to most people. What makes his character so deeply human is that his transformation doesn't come from someone fixing him. No one swoops in with a magic solution. What happens is this. The world slowly begins to make space for him. And that space allows him to step up, to show what he can do, and to embrace who he is. Mickey becomes a leader, not through words or grand gestures, but through persistence, integrity, and pure heart. He throws not just pitches, but metaphoric curveballs at everyone's assumptions. He becomes the glue of the team, even if he never fully blends in. Now let's shine the spotlight on Arthur Murphy, or Murph, the coach with more wisdom in his stare than most people have in an autobiography. At first, Murph seems like he's been around the baseball block too many times. He's gruff, tired, probably dealing with some burnout. But here's what makes Murph special. He still has that fire. That flicker of hope that tells him there's magic out there, if you know where to look. When he stumbles upon Mickey, Murph doesn't see a diagnosis or a list of limitations. He sees possibility. He sees raw talent and something unexplainable, a spark. But Murph's arc isn't just about recognizing talent. It's about becoming a better human being through the process of guiding someone else. He learns how to be patient in new ways. He learns that coaching isn't just about yelling at players and drawing plays in dirt. It's about listening, adjusting, and truly seeing someone. Murph's transformation is subtle but steady. He moves from being a guy with a clipboard and a dream to being a mentor, a protector, and ultimately a changed man. Let's talk team dynamics, because wow, this team is a whole emotional ecosystem. In the beginning, the River Rats are exactly what you'd expect. Rough around the edges, full of egos, and just barely holding it together. They're not a family. They're a collection of players wearing the same jersey. So when Mickey shows up, things get shaken. You can practically hear the record scratch when this quiet, strange, nervous kid joins the dugout. Some players are curious. Some are annoyed. And one player in particular becomes the fuel for conflict. This antagonist-type teammate. He's got issues. He's jealous. He's insecure. He can't figure out why this weird new kid is getting so much attention. But instead of sitting with those feelings like a mature adult, he lashes out. His bullying isn't cartoonish. It's raw, mean, and driven by fear. He becomes the representation of every closed mind Mickey will have to challenge. But even he, yes, even the bully, gets a mini arc. He's forced to watch Mickey prove, over and over, that ability comes in many forms. And whether or not he fully changes, he becomes part of the shift in team culture. Then there are the quieter team members. The ones who don't get a ton of screen time but still undergo subtle growth. You start seeing glimmers of support. Guys sticking up for Mickey, adapting to his quirks, adjusting their behavior without being told to. There's a moment where someone finally listens to Mickey instead of talking over him. Another moment where a player hands him a glove without hesitation, like it's totally normal. These moments might not shout, but they echo. They show you that change is happening, one teammate at a time. Let's not forget Mickey's parents, especially his mother. She's the guardian, the worrier, the one holding her breath every time Mickey steps out into the world. Her arc is deeply emotional because it's about the hardest thing a parent can do: let go. She's not cold. She's not unsupportive. But she's scared. She knows how cruel the world can be. And for her, letting Mickey leave the safety of the farm isn't just a logistical decision. It's an act of faith. Her journey is about trusting her son, trusting his strength, and accepting that growth often comes with discomfort. There's one particular scene where she watches Mickey on the field, and you can see it in her eyes. Pride, fear, awe, and a touch of grief that her little boy isn't so little anymore. And now let's swing back to Mickey one last time, because as the film progresses, we see his character evolve in a way that's absolutely gripping. He doesn't suddenly become a smooth-talking extrovert. He doesn't have a big, "I've overcome everything" speech. What he has are moments. Moments of connection, moments of resilience, moments where you realize he's not just coping, he's growing. He learns to read situations better. He starts initiating things on his own. And there's one powerful moment, no spoilers, where he chooses to stay in a situation that clearly terrifies him, just because he wants to help the team. That's growth. That's courage. The beauty of A Mile in His Shoes is that every character, no matter how big or small their role, contributes to this ripple effect of transformation. From skeptical teammates to worn-out coaches to worried parents, they all get pushed out of their comfort zones and end up better for it. And through it all, Mickey is the quiet catalyst. Not because he set out to change people, but because he dared to be exactly who he is in a world that wasn't ready for him. This isn't a story where the characters grow just for the sake of plot convenience. Their changes feel authentic, rooted in emotion, and earned through small, meaningful steps. So when the credits roll, you don't just feel like you watched a baseball game. You feel like you've walked alongside these people, awkwardly, beautifully, and bravely, 1 mile at a time. Let's talk about the real magic behind A Mile in His Shoes: the performances. Because you can have the best script in the world, the most inspiring plot, the prettiest cinematography, and a score that tugs at every heartstring, but if the actors don't bring the characters to life? Game over. Luckily, this movie steps up to the plate and swings hard with performances that aren't just convincing. They're heartfelt, layered, and totally disarming. These actors don't just recite lines. They live them. They melt into their roles so naturally, you forget you're watching a movie. It feels more like watching real people navigate their fears, dreams, and transformations. And that's exactly why these performances hit home. Starting with Luke Schroeder, who plays Mickey Tussler. Now this role is not an easy one. Playing a character with Asperger's syndrome requires a level of nuance and care that not every young actor could pull off. But Luke, he doesn't just carry the role. He owns it. From the moment he appears on screen, you believe him. Every fidget, every nervous glance, every pause before he speaks, it's not exaggerated or overplayed. He gives Mickey a kind of quiet vulnerability that makes you want to reach into the screen and give the kid a high five and a hug. What makes his performance stand out is that he never turns Mickey into a caricature. He keeps him grounded, human, and real. There's no "look how different I am" energy here. Instead, you get this deeply empathetic portrait of a boy who sees the world in his own unique way. You see the frustration when he's misunderstood. You see the joy when he finally feels accepted. And most importantly, you see growth. Not in some flashy Oscar bait kind of way, but in the tiny shifts in his eyes, posture, and tone that let you know Mickey is slowly stepping into his own power. Then there's Dean Cain as Coach Murph. Now if you only know Cain from his superhero days, buckle up, because this is a whole different kind of role. Murph is no cape-wearing icon. He's a grounded, flawed, working-class coach trying to hold together a misfit team with duct tape and hope. Cain brings this weathered charm to the role that makes you believe he's been around the minor league block more times than he can count. His voice has that just right mix of authority and warmth. He yells when he needs to, but you never doubt it's coming from a place of love. What really makes his performance shine, though, are the quiet moments. When Murph's not barking orders, he's studying people. Reading Mickey, pushing his players in just the right way, and letting his guard down ever so slowly. Cain shows us Murph's tough exterior, but he also lets us peek beneath it, revealing a man who's learning, adapting, and growing just like everyone else. It's a mature, heartfelt performance that gives the film its emotional spine. Let's not ignore the supporting cast, because this film is packed with solid performances that bring texture and life to every scene. Mickey's parents, for instance, aren't just background noise. They feel like real, deeply concerned people trying to do what's best in a complicated world. Mickey's mother, in particular, has some absolutely gut-wrenching scenes. The actress playing her gives us a portrait of a woman who is fiercely protective but deeply conflicted. You can feel her pain when she doubts the world's ability to treat her son fairly. You can feel her joy when she sees him shine. Every sigh, every worried glance, every tear feels earned, not forced. It's subtle, moving work that never tries too hard. It just rings true. The rest of the team, the River Rats, do an excellent job fleshing out that classic underdog sports movie vibe. But here's the cool part. They never slip into pure stereotype. Sure, there's the cocky one, the skeptical one, the quiet supporter, and yes, the full-blown antagonist who gives Mickey a hard time. But each actor brings their own spin. The cocky player adds charm to his swagger. The antagonist doesn't just sneer. He simmers with insecurity and fear. Even the players who only get a few lines bring enough presence that you remember them. They help build a believable team atmosphere that's messy, loud, competitive, and eventually, surprisingly supportive. One of the best scenes that showcases the entire ensemble's strength is when the team finally starts rallying around Mickey. It's not a big speech. It's not a miracle game-winning moment. It's a string of glances, a pat on the back, a shared look of respect. And because the cast has done such a good job up to that point, those small gestures carry enormous weight. You feel the shift in the air. The players aren't just teammates. They're starting to become something more. That kind of chemistry doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a cast works in sync, trusts each other, and digs deep into the emotional undercurrents of the story. Even the minor roles, umpires, rival players, townsfolk, feel like they belong. No one is phoning it in. Everyone understands the tone of the film, which walks that fine line between feel-good inspiration and grounded realism. It's wholesome without being cheesy, emotional without being melodramatic, and uplifting without feeling forced. That only works when everyone involved is committed to telling the truth. Not just through words, but through expression, posture, silence, and timing. So if you're watching A Mile in His Shoes and you find yourself unexpectedly tearing up during a scene that doesn't seem like it should hit that hard, you can thank the actors. They've taken this already powerful story and elevated it. They've made these characters real. And in doing so, they remind us why great performances matter. Because sometimes, all it takes is one honest look, one trembling voice, or one perfectly timed pause to make a story unforgettable. Let's step into the dugout of creative decisions and talk about the person calling the shots from behind the camera. Director William Dear. Now, directing a film like A Mile in His Shoes is no walk in the park. It's not some big-budget blockbuster with explosions and CGI wizardry to distract you. This is a heartfelt, character-driven, emotionally layered sports drama that demands a steady hand, a sensitive eye, and a whole lot of soul. And William Dear doesn't just handle the job. He brings the same kind of subtle brilliance to it that Mickey brings to the pitcher's mound. He doesn't show off. He doesn't scream for attention. What he does is even more impressive. He makes it all feel natural, almost effortless, while carefully guiding every emotional beat like a pro conductor leading a symphony. From the very first few frames, you can feel the tone being carefully laid out. This isn't some flashy high-stakes sports movie where the underdogs train in a montage and then win the championship in slow motion. No, this is a slow burn. A gentle, introspective, emotionally rich story with long shadows, warm lighting, and an almost pastoral calmness. And that's no accident. Dear knows exactly what kind of story he's telling. He's not rushing to the baseball field. He's taking us through the back roads, past the quiet farms, into the hearts of people who live far away from the spotlight. And the tone he crafts is one of reflection, patience, and ultimately, hope. What makes his direction stand out is the restraint. He resists the temptation to dramatize every challenge Mickey faces. There's no sad violin every time Mickey struggles to make eye contact. There's no big dramatic monologue when Murph takes a leap of faith on him. Instead, Dear lets the story unfold with honesty. He gives the characters room to breathe, to hesitate, to falter, and to find their way. The emotional beats aren't shoved in your face. They're gently handed to you, wrapped in subtle looks and small moments that end up feeling way more powerful than anything overly dramatic could have been. Let's talk about pacing, because this is one of the most important ingredients in a story like this. Go too fast, and you risk steamrolling the very development that makes the characters real. Go too slow, and your audience starts checking their watches. But William Dear finds the perfect middle ground. He takes his time setting up the world, introducing Mickey, Murph, the team, the parents, the tension, without dragging. It's like watching someone draw a chalk line across the field before the game. Deliberate, thoughtful, with every inch serving a purpose. The story builds in layers. You feel the momentum pick up as the team chemistry starts to shift. You feel the stakes rise not because someone shouts them at you, but because the emotional weight quietly sneaks up and settles right into your chest. Now let's shift to the visual style. It's not flashy, but it's full of intention. The cinematography mirrors the emotional tone of the story. Wide shots of the countryside give us that sense of isolation and openness, perfectly mirroring Mickey's inner world. When we see Mickey on the farm, the camera is still and soft, almost meditative. When he steps onto the baseball field for the first time, the lens tightens just slightly, focusing in on his tension, his awe, his sheer wonder. And then, as the story progresses, the shots open up again. Not just literally, but emotionally. The framing subtly evolves with the characters. And that's not just pretty camera work. It's storytelling with visuals. Deer uses light, space, and perspective to mirror internal journeys. And the result is a film that doesn't need to say everything out loud. It shows it, quietly but powerfully. He also understands contrast, between loud and quiet, open and confined, stillness and motion. Think about how the baseball games are shot. He doesn't turn every game into a Hollywood spectacle with rapid-fire edits and dramatic music swells. He lets the games play out in a way that feels grounded. He uses just enough tension to keep you leaning forward, but not so much that it overshadows the characters. What really gets you isn't who wins or loses. It's how Mickey handles the pressure, how the team reacts to him, how Murph stands in the dugout holding his breath like a proud dad pretending not to care. And that delicate balance? That's all direction. And let's not ignore how Deer directs the performances. Every actor in this film gives a controlled, sincere, emotionally resonant performance. And that's not just luck. That's a director creating a space where actors can really feel the scene. Where they're encouraged to underplay rather than overact. Where even the silences are packed with meaning. Deer knows when to step back and let the actors carry the moment, and when to push a little to heighten the tension. That kind of instinct doesn't come from guesswork. It comes from experience, from understanding the material on a deep level, and from trusting your team to rise to the occasion. Even little stylistic choices, the sound design, the transitions, the score placement, all feel like part of a single cohesive vision. You're not pulled in a dozen directions. You're guided, gently but firmly, through a story that knows exactly where it wants to take you. And you never feel manipulated. You feel invited. That's the director's touch. Not a sledgehammer, but a whisper in your ear saying, "Hey, take a closer look. There's something beautiful here." In the end, what William Dear accomplishes with A Mile in His Shoes is something deceptively rare. He directs the film in a way that puts the story and the characters front and center, without ever letting the technique get in the way. Every shot, every beat, every scene feels like it's been shaped with care. And even if you're not consciously aware of it while watching, you feel it. You feel the balance, the rhythm, the warmth. It's not just direction. It's storytelling in its purest form, and it makes the film feel like more than just a movie. It makes it feel like an experience worth remembering. Let's step behind the lens and talk about the silent hero of A Mile in His Shoes, the cinematography. Now, this isn't the kind of film that relies on explosive visuals or crazy CGI to grab your attention. This is a story built on emotion, environment, and human connection. And the cinematography leans into that beautifully. It doesn't scream for attention. It whispers, it nudges, it quietly wraps around you like a warm flannel on a cool morning. And before you even realize it, you're not just watching the story, you're inside it. That's the kind of magic the camera work pulls off here. Right from the opening shots, there's a softness to the visual language that sets the tone. The use of wide, sweeping shots of the countryside does more than just show us where we are. Feels like something. It feels peaceful, isolated, and just a little bit lonely. The golden hue of the fields, the stillness of the early morning light, the shadows of trees stretching across the dirt roads. It paints a world that's as much a character as any person in the film. The visuals carry a quiet poetry, a kind of visual lullaby that lets you know this story isn't about noise and action. It's about quiet discoveries and deep emotion. Then there's the lighting, which deserves a standing ovation. Natural light plays a huge role here. It's warm and golden during the day, casting everything in a nostalgic glow. It's not just pretty, It's purposeful. That soft golden light reflects the warmth and hope slowly creeping into the story. It mirrors Mickey's journey as he goes from the solitude of his farm to the unexpected companionship of a baseball team. And when things get tense or uncertain, the lighting subtly shifts. Shadows creep in. The glow fades slightly. But it never turns bleak. It just pulls back enough to let us feel the change. It's like the film's way of emotionally forecasting the next scene without saying a word. Framing is another storytelling tool used masterfully throughout. Take a look at how Mickey is framed in the beginning. He's often shot alone, placed in the center of wide, empty spaces. The camera doesn't crowd him. It gives him room, just like the world does. He's always in his own space, slightly disconnected from the people around him. It's subtle, but incredibly effective. Then, as the story progresses and he starts to open up, the shots begin to change. The framing becomes tighter, more intimate. Suddenly Mickey's not in the center of empty fields anymore. He's in locker rooms, on the mound, surrounded by teammates. He's part of something. And the camera captures that evolution with the kind of care that makes you feel it without even realizing why. One of the standout visual techniques used in the baseball scenes is the camera's ability to shift perspective depending on emotion. When Mickey pitches, the camera doesn't just stay outside the diamond. It pulls in close. It tracks the ball. It slows down just a little. Just enough to make you feel the weight of the moment. And then it cuts to the faces of the players watching. The focus is sharp, the background blurs, and suddenly all that matters is the tension in their eyes. These aren't flashy shots for the sake of drama. They're carefully chosen angles that put you exactly where the story wants you. Right in the thick of the nerves, the hope, and the growing respect. And can we talk about the close-ups? Oh, they're powerful. The cinematographer knows exactly when to move in on a face and let silence do the talking. Mickey's expressions, small and careful as they are, come alive under the lens. A tiny twitch of anxiety, a hesitant smile, the spark of joy when he realizes someone believes in him. It all plays out in close-up without a single word needed. Murph gets the same treatment. The hard exterior, the cracks starting to show, the softening around the edges. These moments are quiet, but the camera lingers just long enough to let them land with full emotional weight. The camera also becomes a mood setter during key turning points. Remember those scenes at dusk when Mickey is alone, either on the field or sitting in silence. The sky melts into pinks and purples, and everything feels suspended in time. The world slows down. The sound fades out. It's just Mickey and the sky, and us. Those shots are visually stunning, but they're not just pretty. They speak volumes about what he's feeling. It's that mix of wonder, fear, and change. And the cinematography doesn't just observe it. It embodies it. One particularly clever use of the camera happens during a confrontation scene between Mickey and another player. Instead of going for fast cuts or shaky tension, the camera stays steady, but the angle tilts ever so slightly. It's enough to make you feel that something is off. Something is shifting. That's the kind of detail you don't consciously notice but you absolutely feel. It's storytelling through instinct, not exposition. Even the quietest scenes, Mickey feeding animals on the farm, or Murph sitting alone in thought, are framed and lit with the same level of care as the big game moments. There's never a throwaway shot. Every frame is treated like a page in a storybook. The cinematographer understands that this isn't just a sports film. It's a story about belonging, identity, trust, and transformation. And the visuals carry that message in every field of light, every carefully framed silhouette, and every soft focus pull. In the end, the cinematography in A Mile in His Shoes doesn't shout to be noticed. It gently insists that you feel something. It builds an atmosphere where characters can grow, stories can breathe, and moments can linger. And that's what makes it so special. It's not just what the camera sees, it's how it feels about what it sees. And that emotion, that sincerity, is what brings the whole film to life. Editing and pacing in A Mile in His Shoes work together like the perfect double play, smoothly moving the story along without ever feeling forced or awkward. The film doesn't rush you through Mickey's journey like a fastball blazing past your face, nor does it slow down so much that you find yourself checking the time. Instead, the editing strikes a balance that's kind of like watching a well-paced baseball game. You get moments of tension and excitement, mixed with quieter lulls where you can catch your breath and really feel what's happening beneath the surface. From the get-go, the editing takes its time to settle you into Mickey's world. It doesn't throw a montage at you or try to cram the backstory into a rapid-fire sequence. Instead, scenes flow into one another naturally, almost like a conversation between the visuals and the audience. Cuts happen just when you need them to. Never too soon, never lingering longer than necessary. This creates a rhythm that feels almost conversational, like you're sitting on the sidelines with the characters, watching their lives unfold in real time. Transitions between scenes are smooth, and there's a subtle artistry to how the editor moves between the quiet farm life and the more dynamic baseball scenes. When Mickey steps onto the field, the pace picks up slightly, but not too much. There's a gentle acceleration that mirrors Mickey's growing confidence and the rising stakes of the game. When tensions rise, whether it's a tough pitch or a challenging conversation, the cuts get tighter, shorter, ratcheting up the emotional intensity without ever becoming jarring. The editing here respects the emotional beats, letting the tension build naturally instead of forcing it. One thing that stands out is how the editor uses silence and stillness to great effect. You'll notice scenes where the frame lingers a little longer, holding on a character's expression or a moment of quiet reflection. These pauses aren't wasted time. They're carefully placed beats that let the emotions sink in. They give you a chance to connect with Mickey's inner world, to feel his doubts and hopes without a single word spoken. It's a subtle but powerful way to deepen engagement, and it keeps the storytelling intimate and real. The pacing also cleverly mirrors the ups and downs of a baseball game. There are bursts of energy and action during the games themselves. Fast cuts, quick reactions, close-ups on faces. But these are always balanced by calmer sequences where the focus shifts back to relationships and personal growth. This ebb and flow keeps the film from becoming monotonous or overly dramatic. You get just enough adrenaline to keep you invested, but also plenty of space to breathe and reflect. Another interesting aspect is how the editing handles time. There's no jumping back and forth in confusing flashbacks or non-linear storytelling. Instead, it moves forward steadily, but it does so with a sensitivity to pacing that feels thoughtful. It respects the slow burn of character development and doesn't rush toward the finish line. That patient pacing means that when the big moments happen, the game-winning pitch, the emotional breakthroughs, they hit harder because you've been right there with the characters the whole time. Even the smaller scenes between the main events are cut with care. Conversations flow naturally, without abrupt jumps or awkward pauses. You feel like you're really part of the moment, whether it's a tense exchange on the bench or a quiet family dinner. The editor makes sure that every scene serves the story and the emotional journey, trimming anything that feels unnecessary while letting important moments breathe. The rhythm of the film feels almost musical in how it builds and releases tension. There's a kind of pulse to it that matches the emotional highs and lows of Mickey's journey. When you're watching, you don't notice the editing as editing. It feels invisible, seamless. But that's the mark of great work behind the scenes. The cuts guide your emotions subtly, nudging you to lean in or take a breath at just the right moments. So the editing and pacing of A Mile in His Shoes don't just keep the story moving, they shape how you experience it. They create a flow that's engaging and heartfelt, matching the tone of the film perfectly. You get a steady, thoughtful ride that pulls you in without ever pushing too hard, letting the story unfold naturally, one step at a time. It's a reminder that sometimes the best editing isn't about flashy tricks. It's about knowing exactly when to cut, when to hold, and how to keep the heartbeat of the story steady and true. Let's tune in to the soundtrack and score of A Mile in His Shoes, the invisible thread that weaves its way through the film, pulling at your emotions, setting the mood, and quietly guiding you through Mickey's journey. Music in this film isn't just background noise. It's a carefully crafted partner in storytelling that knows exactly when to step forward and when to fade into the shadows. It's like the perfect teammate who shows up at just the right moment, never hogging the spotlight but always making the play that counts. From the very beginning, the music sets a warm, heartfelt tone that feels both familiar and fresh. The score is built around gentle melodies, often soft piano or subtle strings, that reflect the simplicity and sincerity of Mickey's world. It's not flashy or overly dramatic, but that's exactly why it works so well. The music mirrors the quiet hope and underlying strength of the story, wrapping you in a comforting blanket of sound that invites you to lean in and feel the emotions without any distractions. One of the coolest things about the soundtrack is how it uses recurring motifs. Small musical phrases that pop up again and again throughout the film, almost like little emotional bookmarks. These motifs are subtle, almost like a whisper in the background, but they create a sense of continuity that ties scenes and emotions together. You might not notice them consciously, but they build a subconscious connection that makes the whole experience feel cohesive and complete. It's like hearing a familiar tune just out of reach, pulling you deeper into the story each time it returns. Silence or near silence is another powerful tool the film's sound design plays with expertly. There are moments when the music drops away almost entirely, leaving just the sounds of nature, the crack of a baseball hitting a glove, or the hush of a quiet breath. These pauses aren't empty. They're charged with meaning. The absence of music gives space for the audience to really sit with the character's feelings, making the next musical note hit that much harder when it arrives. It's a smart balance that prevents the score from becoming overpowering and instead makes it feel like a natural extension of the story's heartbeat. When the story ramps up, whether it's a big game or a key emotional breakthrough, the music swells just enough to lift the moment without drowning it. The composer clearly understands restraint, choosing to highlight emotions rather than force them. The crescendo might be soft, but it's effective, like a gentle rising tide that carries the characters and the audience along without capsizing the story. It feels earned, not engineered, which makes every musical moment feel honest and deeply felt. The soundtrack also has a subtle Americana vibe, with touches of acoustic guitar and folk-inspired arrangements that complement the rural setting and down-to-earth characters. This gives the film an authentic feel, grounding the story in a specific place and culture without ever feeling cliché or heavy-handed. The music flows with the landscape, echoing the wide-open fields and quiet sunsets that fill the screen. Another neat aspect is how the music interacts with the rhythm of the scenes. It pulses gently during quieter moments, almost like a soft heartbeat underneath the dialogue, and then picks up in tempo during the games, mirroring the tension and energy without overwhelming the visuals. This dynamic use of sound helps keep the audience engaged, reinforcing what you're seeing and feeling without competing for attention. Even the transitions between scenes often feature musical cues that guide the emotional flow. A soft chord might fade in as a conversation ends, or a light melody might start just as the sun sets, linking moments together in a seamless dance of sight and sound. It's the kind of subtle craftsmanship that most viewers don't consciously notice but that deeply enhances the viewing experience. In short, the soundtrack and score of A Mile in His Shoes are like the film's emotional glue. They hold everything together with warmth, subtlety, and a keen understanding of when to speak and when to stay quiet. The music doesn't shout or demand your attention. It gently pulls you in, making the story richer, the characters more real, and the experience more memorable. It's a beautiful example of how music can elevate a film without ever stealing the show. Let's dig into the heart of A Mile in His Shoes and unpack the deeper themes and messages hiding beneath the surface of this touching baseball story. This isn't just a feel-good sports flick. It's a rich exploration of identity, resilience, and the transformative power of second chances, all wrapped up in the humble journey of a kid who just wants to belong. What's fascinating is how these themes sneak into the story so naturally that you barely notice you're soaking them up. Kind of like how you don't realize you're humming a tune until it's stuck in your head. First up, the idea of identity and belonging pulses through every scene. Mickey's journey isn't just about pitching fastballs, it's about finding a place where he fits, a tribe where he's accepted despite all the odds stacked against him. This theme isn't handed to you on a silver platter. It unfolds gently, through his interactions with Murph, the team, and even himself. It taps into a universal feeling. Who hasn't at some point felt like the odd one out, searching for a spot to call home? The film captures this longing with sincerity, making Mickey's victories feel personal and deeply relatable. Then there's the theme of resilience and redemption, which runs like an undercurrent beneath the surface. Mickey's past is rough, and the film doesn't shy away from showing that life isn't always fair or easy. But instead of dwelling on the hardship, the story focuses on how he responds to it. His determination to keep going, to prove he's more than his circumstances, sends a powerful message about the human spirit's ability to bounce back. And this isn't just about physical strength, it's about emotional grit, learning to trust again, and daring to dream despite setbacks. The film celebrates these qualities without ever turning them into clichés or pep talks. A particularly compelling message is about the importance of mentorship and trust. Murph's role is more than just coach. He's a guide, a believer, someone who sees potential where others see trouble. Their evolving relationship shows how a little faith and encouragement can change the trajectory of a person's life. This dynamic isn't just inspiring. It's real. The film captures the awkward, sometimes challenging process of building trust, making it clear that growth is messy and takes time. It's a refreshing take on the mentor-mentee trope that feels earned and heartfelt. There's also a subtle but important theme about overcoming stigma and stereotypes. Mickey's background and his struggles might have made him an easy target for judgment, but the film pushes back against that. It challenges the idea that your past defines you and instead asks viewers to look deeper, beyond labels and assumptions. This message feels particularly relevant and resonates quietly throughout the story, encouraging empathy and understanding without preaching. Another interesting layer is the idea of community and teamwork, not just in the sports sense but as a life lesson. The baseball team becomes a microcosm of society, where differences are negotiated, alliances are formed, and people learn to support one another. The film uses this backdrop to show how belonging isn't just about fitting in, it's about being part of something bigger, where individual strengths contribute to a shared goal. This theme is woven seamlessly into the narrative, making the baseball scenes about more than just the game. What's really cool is how the film handles these themes without ever feeling heavy-handed or didactic. They don't shout at you, they whisper. They invite you to think, to feel, and maybe even to look at your own life and the people around you a little differently. The messages leave a gentle but lasting impression, lingering like a good song long after the credits roll. Finally, the film also touches on the power of hope and new beginnings. Mickey's story is a reminder that no matter how tough things get, there's always a chance to turn things around, to start fresh. It's not a naive optimism but a grounded hope rooted in action, relationships, and self-belief. The film celebrates this without glossing over the difficulties, making the hope feel real and earned. In the end, A Mile in His Shoes doesn't just tell a story about baseball. It uses the sport as a lens to explore some of life's most meaningful themes. It's about finding your place, fighting for it, and discovering that sometimes the biggest victories happen off the field. And that's what makes its messages stick with you long after you've watched it. When it comes to A Mile in His Shoes, visual effects and CGI aren't the flashy superheroes of the story. They're more like the quiet sidekicks working behind the scenes to keep everything feeling real and believable. This isn't a blockbuster packed with explosions or wild sci-fi visuals. Instead, the effects here are subtle, practical, and focused on enhancing the authenticity of the world rather than stealing the spotlight. And honestly, that's where their charm lies. The film leans heavily on practical effects, which suits its grounded, heartfelt vibe perfectly. Think baseball fields, dusty dirt, flying baseballs, and the sweat on the players' brows. All captured with real-world detail that makes you feel like you're right there on the diamond, catching every pitch and hearing the crack of the bat. These practical touches create an immersive atmosphere that digital effects could never fully replicate. When a ball soars through the air or a glove snags a tricky catch, it's all captured with a straightforwardness that keeps the moment honest and visceral. As for CGI, it's used sparingly and smartly, like the film's silent supporting cast. Instead of dazzling you with high-tech wizardry, the digital effects mostly serve to clean up or subtly enhance scenes without drawing attention to themselves. For example, if there's a tricky baseball trajectory or a small background detail that needs a touch-up, CGI quietly steps in without making a fuss. It's the kind of use that only becomes noticeable if you're really paying close attention, which is exactly how it should be. The goal is immersion, not distraction, and the film nails that balance. One standout example is how the effects team handles the baseball action sequences. They don't go overboard with slow-motion slow-mo or flashy zoom-ins. Instead, the camera captures the energy and movement naturally, and any digital enhancements serve to smooth the flow or sharpen the visuals so you never lose sight of the action's realism. This creates a visceral feeling that makes you almost hear the crowd's roar or the thud of a ball hitting the mitt. The effects support the emotion and excitement without ever taking you out of the moment. Another thing to appreciate is how the visual effects respect the film's tone and setting. There's no over-the-top CGI spectacle because the story is about human connection and growth, not fantasy. The effects are like invisible threads holding the scenes together, quietly reinforcing the story's authenticity. This restraint is refreshing and makes the film's moments feel earned and sincere. Practical effects also shine in the way the film portrays the physicality of baseball. The dirt kicking up as players slide, the sweat and grime on their faces, the worn-out equipment that tells a story of its own. These details, enhanced by subtle digital cleanup, give the film a lived-in, genuine texture that's easy to sink into. You get the sense that you're watching something real unfold, not a polished, artificial construct. Sometimes, less is truly more, and A Mile in His Shoes embraces that philosophy. The effects don't shout or demand attention. They quietly do their job so you can focus on the characters, the story, and the emotions. It's like the perfect supporting cast in a play. Essential, but never stealing the scene. In short, the visual effects and CGI in this film act like invisible magic. Present enough to enhance the experience, but subtle enough to keep you fully immersed in Mickey's world. They blend seamlessly with the practical effects, creating a film that feels real, heartfelt, and totally believable from start to finish. Step into the world of A Mile in His Shoes, and you immediately feel like you've been dropped into a slice of small-town America where baseball isn't just a game, it's a way of life. The set design and locations here do a fantastic job of crafting a believable, lived-in world that feels honest, welcoming, and rich with subtle storytelling details. It's not about flashy backdrops or grandiose sets. It's about the small, meaningful touches that make the environment feel real and grounded in the story. The baseball field itself is practically a character in its own right. It's not some pristine, perfectly manicured stadium, but a gritty, well-worn diamond that tells stories in every patch of dirt and scuffed base. The bleachers, the dugout, even the fences. All of it feels authentic, like a place where dreams are born and tested under the hot sun. You can almost smell the grass and hear the distant chatter of a small crowd cheering on the team. The design choices here immerse you in the sport's humble roots, making every pitch and catch carry extra emotional weight. Beyond the field, the locations expand to include quiet homes, dusty streets, and local hangouts that feel like they belong to real people with real struggles and hopes. The production design nails the balance between simplicity and detail, from the worn baseball gloves to the faded jerseys, to the everyday objects scattered around the characters' homes. These props aren't just set dressing, they're storytellers themselves, hinting at backstories and personalities without a single line of dialogue. One of the coolest things about the set design is how it captures the feel of community. The neighborhood scenes are cozy and unpretentious, filled with little touches like a neighbor's porch swing, a dog lounging in the yard, or kids playing in the street. These details give the film a warm, inviting atmosphere that contrasts beautifully with the personal challenges Mickey faces. It's a world that feels lived in and full of life, making the characters' victories and setbacks feel grounded and impactful. The interiors, especially Mickey's home and Murph's places, are carefully curated to reflect the characters' personalities and circumstances. They're simple but meaningful, with everyday clutter and personal items that tell you more than words could. The sets create an intimate environment where characters can be vulnerable, grow, and connect, making the emotional beats hit harder because they're happening in spaces that feel real and familiar. Visually, the locations add depth and texture without overwhelming the story. The natural lighting, the time of day, and even the weather play a role in shaping the mood of scenes. Whether it's the golden glow of a sunset on the field or the quiet stillness of an early morning. These choices give the film a tactile quality that draws you in, making you want to step inside and stay a while. Even the small-town vibe works perfectly for the narrative. It's a place where everyone knows each other, where community matters, and where personal stories ripple outward. This setting enriches the themes of belonging and resilience, showing how a supportive environment can make all the difference. The locations don't just serve as a backdrop. They actively contribute to the storytelling by embodying the spirit of the characters and the journey they're on. In essence, the set design and locations in A Mile in His Shoes do the heavy lifting quietly and effectively. They create a believable, visually compelling world that feels genuine and full of heart, inviting you to lose yourself in the story while appreciating the small details that make it unforgettable. Let's talk about the dialogue and script in A Mile in His Shoes, where the words spoken feel as real and heartfelt as a conversation you might have with a close friend on a quiet afternoon. The script has this wonderful way of balancing simplicity with depth, making every line land with a natural ease that never feels forced or overdone. It's the kind of writing that sneaks up on you, weaving emotional weight and authenticity into everyday exchanges without waving a giant neon sign that says, "Important moment here." One of the standout qualities of the dialogue is how genuine it sounds. The characters don't speak in big, dramatic monologues or fancy speeches. Instead, their words reflect how people actually talk. Sometimes hesitant, sometimes awkward, sometimes filled with quiet hope or frustration. This natural flow helps build a strong connection between the audience and the characters, making you feel like you're right there in the room, sharing their struggles and triumphs. It's conversational but never bland, striking just the right tone for each moment. The script also shines in its emotional honesty. Whether it's a coach giving tough but caring advice, a teammate offering encouragement, or Mickey wrestling with his own doubts, the dialogue carries an emotional punch without slipping into melodrama. The writing respects the characters' experiences, letting their feelings emerge organically through their words and interactions. This makes the heartfelt moments hit harder because they're earned, not manufactured. There are also moments sprinkled throughout the film where the script surprises you with sharp, insightful lines that cut through the noise. These aren't over-the-top quips or jokes, but quiet flashes of wisdom or humor that reveal something deeper about the characters or situation. These lines linger in your mind, not because they're flashy, but because they feel true, Little gems of thoughtfulness that add layers to the story without slowing down the pace. Another fun aspect is how the dialogue helps define relationships. The banter between teammates feels casual and familiar, capturing the camaraderie and sometimes playful teasing that naturally happens in a close-knit group. Meanwhile, the conversations between Mickey and Murph carry a different weight. More mentorship, trust, and sometimes tension. The script uses these variations in tone and style to keep interactions fresh and engaging, reflecting the complexity of real human connections. The pacing of the dialogue is also worth noting. The film knows when to let silence fill the space and when to have characters speak up, creating a rhythm that feels authentic. Sometimes what's left unsaid carries as much meaning as the spoken words, and the script trusts the audience to pick up on those subtle cues. This clever use of dialogue and pauses enhances the storytelling, making scenes more powerful and immersive. In terms of memorable lines, the film isn't about catchphrases or quotable one-liners, but it does have a few moments where a simple sentence crystallizes a theme or character's growth. These lines aren't shouted from the rooftops, they're delivered quietly but firmly, like a secret shared between the characters and the audience. They add emotional resonance and stick with you long after the film ends. Overall, the dialogue and script of A Mile in His Shoes are a testament to the power of well-crafted, honest writing. They don't overwhelm with flashy rhetoric or dramatic flair but instead create a world where characters speak with real voices, feelings, and hearts. It's this grounded, thoughtful approach that makes the film story so engaging and its moments so memorable. When it comes to genre, A Mile in His Shoes comfortably settles into the sports drama category, but it does so with a fresh and heartfelt spin that keeps things from feeling like a rerun of every baseball movie you've ever seen. Instead of ticking off all the usual cliches with robotic precision, this film takes the familiar elements of the genre and breathes new life into them by focusing on character depth and emotional honesty, which makes the story feel both relatable and genuinely inspiring. The classic underdog tale is definitely present. There's a kid with a troubled past who gets a shot at redemption through baseball. But what sets this film apart is how it layers that familiar narrative with real-world struggles and nuanced relationships. Instead of just winning games and overcoming physical obstacles, the story digs deeper into the emotional hurdles, like trust issues, self-worth, and the search for belonging. This gives the sports drama a richer texture, making it about much more than just the scoreboard. One way the film plays with genre conventions is in its pacing and tone. It knows when to dial up the drama, those intense moments on the field where the stakes feel sky-high. But it also balances these with quieter, more reflective scenes that allow the characters to breathe and grow. There's no rush to cram in every sports trope, which means the film never feels overstuffed or formulaic. Instead, it offers a steady, thoughtful rhythm that keeps you invested in both the game and the people playing it. Humor sneaks in here and there too, but it's understated and natural. More like the kind of light-hearted banter you'd hear between teammates in the dugout rather than forced jokes or slapstick moments. This subtle humor helps keep the film grounded and relatable, adding warmth without undercutting the emotional weight. It's a nice touch that adds balance and prevents the story from becoming too heavy or preachy. Suspense and tension are also handled with care. Instead of relying on over-the-top dramatic twists or last-minute game-winning shots, the film builds its suspense through character conflicts and personal stakes. Will Mickey overcome his doubts? Can he earn the trust of his coach and teammates? These questions keep you hooked, but the tension feels earned and realistic rather than contrived. It's a slower burn that makes the payoff more satisfying. Another interesting twist on the genre is how the film highlights mentorship and community as much as the sport itself. The relationships between characters feel like the heart of the story, not just a backdrop for the game. This approach adds emotional depth and sets the film apart from sports movies that focus almost exclusively on the competition. Here, the game is important, but the people and their journeys take center stage. In terms of cliches, the film sidesteps the most obvious traps. There's no evil rival team caricature, no last-second miracle that feels unbelievable. Instead, the obstacles Mickey faces are grounded in real-life issues, making the story feel honest and authentic. This choice keeps the narrative fresh and relatable, avoiding the predictable beats that can sometimes make sports dramas feel tired. Overall, A Mile in His Shoes delivers on the expectations of its genre while also adding its own thoughtful twists and emotional layers. It respects the conventions enough to satisfy fans of sports dramas, but isn't afraid to dig deeper into character and theme to create something memorable. The balance between action, drama, subtle humor, and emotional tension keeps the story engaging without ever feeling like it's checking boxes. It's a sports movie that knows how to play the game without losing sight of the bigger picture. A Mile in His Shoes might look like a straightforward sports drama on the surface, but dig a little deeper and you'll find it's quietly weaving in some pretty meaningful social and cultural commentary that adds layers to the story without ever feeling preachy or out of place. Instead of hitting you over the head with heavy-handed messages, the film sneaks in these themes through the characters' experiences and relationships, making the commentary feel natural and integral to the plot. One of the most striking things about the film is how it touches on themes of belonging and second chances in a way that resonates beyond the baseball field. Mickey's journey isn't just about athletic success. It's about finding a place where he feels accepted despite his past struggles. This taps into broader conversations about redemption and the challenges faced by people who've made mistakes or been judged unfairly by society. The film explores these ideas without turning them into a sermon, letting viewers connect with the emotional reality of trying to rebuild trust and self-worth. Another subtle but powerful thread running through the film is the importance of mentorship and community support. The relationships between Mickey, his coach, and teammates highlight how positive influences and a supportive environment can help individuals overcome personal obstacles. This message echoes real-world discussions about the role of mentorship in helping at-risk youth or those facing difficult circumstances. The film presents this in a hopeful, uplifting way that feels genuine rather than forced, showing the impact of kindness and guidance in a relatable context. The movie also brushes against the theme of perseverance in the face of adversity, which has a universal appeal but also speaks to cultural ideas about resilience and the American dream. It acknowledges that life isn't always fair and that success often requires more than just talent. It demands heart, determination, and sometimes the willingness to keep going when the odds are stacked against you. This resonates culturally because it reflects the struggles many people face, making Mickey's story feel like more than just a sports tale. Importantly, A Mile in His Shoes handles these sensitive topics with care and nuance. The film doesn't simplify or gloss over the complexity of its characters' lives. Instead, it shows their flaws, doubts, and setbacks alongside their strengths and growth. This balanced portrayal adds authenticity and prevents the social commentary from feeling preachy or superficial. You get the sense that the filmmakers respect the realities they're depicting and want to tell a story that's both inspiring and honest. The cultural backdrop of the film, a small-town community where everyone knows each other, also plays a role in shaping the commentary. It reflects on how close-knit environments can be both a source of support and pressure, capturing the dual nature of community life. This setting enriches the themes by showing how social dynamics affect individuals in subtle but meaningful ways. Even the way the film portrays baseball as more than just a sport ties into social commentary. Baseball here becomes a metaphor for life's challenges and opportunities, a stage where personal growth, teamwork, and character are tested. This metaphor works well because sports often serve as a mirror for society's broader struggles and aspirations, and the film taps into that connection smoothly and thoughtfully. In short, A Mile in His Shoes manages to deliver its social and cultural commentary with a light touch that feels woven into the fabric of the story rather than tacked on. It's a film that respects its audience's intelligence and emotions, inviting viewers to reflect on important themes through the lens of an engaging, heartfelt narrative. The result is commentary that adds depth and meaning without ever slowing down the story or feeling heavy-handed. A Mile in His Shoes has this way of pulling you in emotionally from the very first scene, and it never really lets go. The film knows how to strike a chord with its audience, tapping into those universal feelings of hope, struggle, and redemption that everyone can relate to on some level. It's not just a story about baseball. It's a story about life's ups and downs, and that makes it hit home in a big way. Right away, you feel invested in Mickey's journey. There's an underdog quality to him that's impossible not to root for, and as the story unfolds, you find yourself riding the roller coaster of his emotions. His doubts, his triumphs, his setbacks. The film has a knack for timing its emotional beats perfectly, so you get moments that make you smile with relief, cheer out loud in excitement, or even get a little teary-eyed when things get tough. It's the kind of emotional engagement that doesn't feel manipulative or overdone but honest and earned through the characters' experiences. The laughter comes through naturally in the camaraderie between the players and the light-hearted moments sprinkled throughout the film. It's the kind of humor that feels genuine and relatable. No forced jokes or slapstick, just real moments of connection that make the characters feel like people you'd want to hang out with. These lighter moments are important because they balance the heavier themes and make the emotional highs and lows feel more impactful. There are also scenes that spark excitement and tension, especially during the baseball games. The film builds suspense not just through the sport itself but through the personal stakes involved, so every pitch and catch feels loaded with meaning. You find yourself on the edge of your seat, not just rooting for the team to win but hoping Mickey finds his own victory in the process. That kind of engagement keeps you hooked and invested until the very last frame. Beyond the immediate emotional ride, A Mile in His Shoes invites deeper reflection. The story's themes of redemption, belonging, and resilience linger long after the credits roll, encouraging viewers to think about their own lives and challenges. It's the kind of film that sparks conversations, whether about the power of second chances, the importance of community, or how sports can be a metaphor for life's bigger battles. The characters' authentic struggles and growth make it easy to connect and empathize, which makes repeat viewings feel worthwhile. You might catch small details or nuances you missed the first time around, or simply want to revisit the story because it leaves you feeling inspired. The film's emotional resonance isn't just a one-time experience. It has staying power that invites audiences to come back and engage with it on different levels. Overall, A Mile in His Shoes creates a rich emotional landscape that pulls viewers in, offers moments of laughter and tears, and leaves a lasting impression. It's a film that understands the power of storytelling to connect people and spark both immediate reactions and ongoing conversations. Watching it feels like sharing in a meaningful journey, one that sticks with you long after you've put down the popcorn. When you stack A Mile in His Shoes next to other sports dramas, especially those centered on baseball, it's easy to spot the familiar beats: the underdog story, the troubled past, the mentor figure. But what makes this film stand out is the way it tells that familiar story with a fresh, heartfelt touch that doesn't feel recycled or predictable. Unlike some sports movies that lean heavily on cliches and predictable plot turns, this one takes a slower, more intimate approach that lets the characters and their emotional journeys take center stage rather than just the big game moments. Compared to classics like The Rookie or Field of Dreams, which are often grand and sometimes sentimental, A Mile in His Shoes feels more grounded and personal. It doesn't rely on sweeping nostalgia or mythic storytelling. Instead, it focuses on real struggles and small victories, giving the narrative a relatable, authentic vibe. The film's modest scale and emphasis on character development create a more nuanced experience, where the emotional stakes feel just as important as the physical ones. Looking at it through the lens of other inspirational sports films, such as Remember the Titans or Coach Carter, this movie doesn't try to tackle massive social issues head-on but rather explores the power of mentorship and second chances on a more intimate level. It's less about broad cultural movements and more about the personal transformation of one young man and the people around him. That gives it a quieter, more introspective tone that appeals to viewers who appreciate subtlety over spectacle. In terms of the director's filmography, if you're familiar with their other works, you'll notice that A Mile in His Shoes carries their signature emphasis on character-driven stories and emotional authenticity. There's a consistent thread of exploring human resilience and relationships that runs through their films, and this one fits perfectly into that pattern while still offering something new by focusing on the world of sports as a backdrop for personal growth. What's refreshing here is the film's avoidance of overused tropes like the last-minute miracle win or the one-dimensional villain coach or player. Instead, the conflicts feel genuine and the resolutions earned, which is a welcome breath of fresh air in a genre that can sometimes feel formulaic. It's not just about winning on the field but about winning at life's tougher challenges. The film also balances drama and lighter moments better than many of its peers. The humor and camaraderie among the characters feel natural and help break up the tension without undermining the serious themes. This blend of tones keeps the story engaging and prevents it from becoming too heavy or cliché-ridden. When compared to bigger-budget sports films with flashy effects and star-studded casts, A Mile in His Shoes stands out with its understated charm and emotional sincerity. It doesn't need grand spectacles to make an impact. It earns its place through genuine performances and a script that respects the audience's intelligence. Overall, this movie carves out its own space within the sports drama genre by focusing on authenticity, character depth, and emotional truth, proving that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones told with heart rather than hype. A Mile in His Shoes might seem straightforward at first glance, a sports drama about a young man's journey. But if you pay attention, you'll find a rich tapestry of symbolism and metaphor woven subtly throughout the film that adds depth and texture to the story. These elements aren't shoved in your face. Instead, they quietly echo the film's themes and invite viewers to dig a little deeper beneath the surface. Baseball itself acts as one of the most powerful metaphors in the movie. The game isn't just a sport here. It's a stand-in for life's unpredictability and the chance for redemption. Every pitch, every swing, every catch represents the choices and challenges Mickey faces off the field. The diamond becomes a kind of arena where the personal battles between doubt and confidence, failure and hope, play out in a tangible way. This metaphor makes the story more universal. Anyone who's faced obstacles or needed a second chance can see themselves in those moments. Recurring motifs also play a key role. Take the imagery of shoes, central to the title and the story, symbolizing the journey Mickey takes. Shoes represent more than just footwear. They symbolize the path someone walks, the steps taken toward growth or change. When Mickey steps into someone else's shoes, literally and figuratively, it signals his attempt to fill a role, to take on responsibility, and to move forward from his past. This metaphor about walking a mile in someone else's shoes ties beautifully into the film's themes of empathy and understanding. Light and shadow appear throughout the film as visual cues, too. Scenes where Mickey is bathed in soft, warm light often coincide with moments of hope or connection, while darker, shadowy frames underline his struggles and moments of doubt. This subtle play with lighting underscores the emotional highs and lows without needing to spell them out, making the viewing experience richer for those paying attention. Another interesting symbolic element is the recurring presence of fences and barriers. Whether physical, like the fence around the baseball field, or metaphorical, like the walls Mickey builds around himself. These barriers represent obstacles that need to be overcome, both in sports and in life. Watching Mickey navigate these boundaries reminds us of the struggle to break free from past mistakes or societal judgments and to step into a new identity. Even the supporting characters carry symbolic weight. The coach can be seen as a guiding figure who represents hope and redemption, while teammates symbolize the community and support system necessary for personal growth. Their interactions with Mickey aren't just plot devices. They reinforce the idea that growth happens not in isolation but through relationships and trust. The film also uses small, repeated actions to create metaphorical meaning. For example, Mickey's ritual of tying his shoelaces before games can be read as a grounding practice, a moment of preparation not just for the sport but for facing life's challenges. These little details add layers to the storytelling, inviting viewers to find meaning in everyday actions. In all these ways, A Mile in His Shoes leverages symbolism and metaphor to deepen the narrative and connect emotionally with the audience. These hidden layers reward viewers who look beyond the surface, enriching the film's themes of redemption, growth, and resilience with subtle visual and narrative cues. It's like a game of mental baseball. Each symbol is a pitch to catch, adding an extra level of engagement and meaning to the story. A Mile in His Shoes isn't part of a sprawling franchise or a cinematic universe where stories build on each other, so it stands alone like a well-crafted novel you pick up and get completely absorbed in without needing any backstory or sequels. Its strength lies precisely in that self-contained quality. You get a full, satisfying narrative arc that doesn't rely on any outside installments or prequels. This means the film can focus all its energy on telling a tight, emotional story without the baggage of franchise expectations or complex timelines. Now, while it's not a historical film in the traditional sense, no period costumes or reenactments here, it still roots itself in a very real, believable context that captures a slice of life that many people can relate to. The film portrays the struggles and triumphs of its characters in a way that feels grounded in everyday reality, which gives it a timeless quality. It's less about recreating a specific moment in history and more about capturing the universal human experience, especially through the lens of baseball, which itself is steeped in American cultural history. The setting feels authentic too, small-town America with its tight-knit communities, local baseball fields, and the kind of interpersonal dynamics that feel true to life rather than exaggerated for drama. This grounding in a relatable environment helps immerse viewers without the need for flashy period details or historical footnotes. You believe in this world because it feels lived in, like a place you might have actually known or heard stories about. In terms of the broader cultural backdrop, the film taps into long-standing themes associated with baseball as America's pastime, and a metaphor for opportunity, perseverance, and second chances. Even though it's not telling the history of baseball per se, it leans into that collective cultural understanding, which adds depth without requiring a history lesson. This cultural context enriches the story, making Mickey's personal journey feel like part of a bigger tradition of redemption and hope that baseball stories often evoke. Since it isn't tied to any franchise or historical events, the film also avoids the trap of needing to explain or justify its existence within a larger saga or timeline. It breathes freely as a standalone story, which can be refreshing in a world saturated with sequels, prequels, and spin-offs. It's like a perfectly served single scoop of ice cream. Simple, satisfying, and memorable without any extra toppings. So while A Mile in His Shoes doesn't contribute to a series or dramatize a historical moment, it immerses viewers in a believable, relatable world and connects with the cultural significance of baseball and personal transformation in a way that feels timeless and universal. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that stand alone, inviting us to step into a character's shoes and walk alongside them through a meaningful journey. When it comes to A Mile in His Shoes, one of the first things you might notice is that this film didn't come with a blockbuster-sized budget, and that's actually part of its charm. The production didn't rely on flashy special effects or extravagant set pieces, which meant the filmmakers had to be clever and focused, stretching every dollar to create a polished, heartfelt movie that looks and feels authentic without the glitz of a Hollywood megabudget. It's a great example of how a modest budget doesn't have to mean a sacrifice in quality. In fact, the simplicity often works in its favor by keeping the spotlight on the story and characters instead of overwhelming the audience with spectacle. From what we can tell, the production values are surprisingly solid for the scale of the budget. The locations, costumes, and props all feel believable and appropriate, creating a world that draws you in rather than distracting you with anything over the top. Cinematography, lighting, and sound design punch above their weight, proving that thoughtful craftsmanship can shine even without millions of dollars behind it. The film's modest production style fits its intimate, personal story perfectly, making it feel more genuine and grounded than some bigger-budget sports dramas. Now, financially, A Mile in His Shoes didn't exactly set box office records or make waves in wide theatrical releases. It's more of an indie-style film that found its audience through word of mouth, smaller screenings, and perhaps more importantly, through digital platforms and home viewing rather than the big cinema chains. This kind of release path means it might not have pulled in huge numbers up front, but it carved out a steady niche and earned respect for delivering a solid, meaningful story. Marketing-wise, it didn't have the massive ad campaigns or star-studded premieres that drive huge box office numbers, so it leaned heavily on audience reception and positive buzz to get noticed. This grassroots kind of success can sometimes be more rewarding because it's driven by genuine interest and emotional connection rather than hype. Fans who discovered it often became advocates, sharing the film with others looking for an inspirational and authentic sports drama. The financial side of the film is a reminder that success isn't always measured in millions of dollars but in the impact a movie has on its viewers and how it manages to tell its story effectively without needing a blockbuster budget. It's a testament to the idea that passion, smart production choices, and strong storytelling can create a memorable film that resonates with its audience, even if it doesn't come with a Hollywood-sized price tag or box office haul. So while A Mile in His Shoes may not have smashed box office records, its budget and earnings reflect a different kind of success. One rooted in careful filmmaking, genuine storytelling, and a connection with viewers that doesn't depend on flashy marketing or huge financial clout. It's proof that sometimes less really is more.